there's just so many people I wanted to be. And so many lives I wanted to live. And then there was this other book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron,
Oh,
where she
wow.
talked about how to integrate all these different aspects of ourselves. So that's when I started understanding we have all these aspects of ourselves, right? To be expressed. We're not just one thing. And what causes a lot of our challenges is having to think we're just this one thing or this one label or
So
this,
true.
or to label ourselves at all, which is why I find what's going on now so interesting is everyone's picking a label. And I want to say, no, that's so limiting. It's the opposite of what we should be doing. We should all be labelless. We're infinite beings, and so it's look, it's interesting. And again, along with all those labels, we're losing sight of the individual. And
So true.
we judge people based on their energy when we meet them. It has nothing to do with, I mean, obviously, if I saw you in that suit, I would think, wow, handsome guy in a suit. But beyond that, do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
energy. It's
Hmm.
energy. So this, I'm preaching to the choir, but there's so all these labels and all this stuff that's going on. But it's interesting as an actress from that point of view too, to see, how we label ourselves, because it's fun for me to walk in and
Interesting.
play different roles, but then come back and then play another role and then come back and see it's an alchemy. It's it really is an alchemy that happens
Yeah.
when you do that. Anyway, I just went
So
off on some
true.
sort of tangent. I have no idea.
No, no. It's funny you say that because last night I was at this party in LA and I felt the need. It was, someone asked me, oh, who am I type of thing. And I said, my name's Robert. And I felt the need to say, I identify as he. You know what I mean? And everyone was laughing, of course. It's like
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
a funny thing, even though it wasn't really intended to be funny, because people were saying, I identify as she, I identify as, and it's such a bizarre thing for me
Mm-hmm.
to hear that. Why do I need to know what you identify as?
Right, right.
Right? I mean,
And why limit yourself?
why limit yourself? And actually, that's exactly why I wrote my last book, which is called Polymath. And
Mm.
polymath is really all about not limiting yourself into one thing. In my career, I didn't want to be only a lawyer. I didn't want to be only someone who worked in healthcare as a doctor. I didn't want to be only someone who worked in scientific pursuits. I wanted to be able to integrate all of these things, and music and art and architecture and geometry. And so I kind of just became the person that I wanted to become, and what wasn't going to, I would basically rebel against any notion of labeling.
Yeah.
It makes it hard sometimes to explain what you do.
Yeah. So what?
So
So
what?
what?
So what? And one of the things I love about Europe as well is that, it's so gauche to in Europe to sort of introduce yourself and immediately start talking about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and even though they size you up, right? They still size you up, let's be real, in Europe. They'll size you up based on how you're dressed and how you speak and your diction and all of these types of things, right? It's sort of like in certain circles in Europe, it's very much like, have you been through the debutante ball process type of thing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cotillion and whatnot, and whether there's cotillion for women or the equivalent for men, right? And that is, did you become an investment banker? What do you do? But you're not allowed to talk about what you do. You're not
Mm.
supposed to. In the United States, we're immediately like, oh, I'm a insurance salesman, or I'm a whatever, right? Whereas in Europe, it's very much more about who you are.
Well, it's charming. I mean, it's charming. The mystery is charming. I think in the US, we're so open, which is beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think a lot of Europeans come here and just embrace our openness, right? They're like, it's a breath of fresh air. And I think sometimes when we go over there, we embrace the mystery and the
Yeah,
sexiness of not knowing, of, oh, what a
romantic.
beautiful, instead of a man saying, what do you do? He says, that's a beautiful coat. And you think, oh my God, well,
Yes.
thank you. And, and did you go to the Louvre and see that? Well, no. Is it good? Should I go? There's like and it's a beautiful unraveling of knowing someone, right? And versus just a straight up efficient, let's get to the point. It's fun. The role that I just played in this French series, Escort Boys, is it's about these guys who inherit this property, and they have to figure out how to. I don't know how much I can say. I better stop. But anyway, I play the American.
I think with the title, you can figure out maybe part of the storyline.
Well, it's how it happens. It's a comedy, so it ends up being a comedy because they don't know. Anyway.
And it's a French film.
It's a French series.
And are you speaking English in it or in French?
I speak English and a little bit of French. So I went through the script and I was like, okay, this is what I can say, and we'll get home today at a decent hour. The rest I'll say in English. They were like, okay. So, but the point is, I came in as the American, and they wrote this, and it comes in and she's boom, boom, boom. This is how we're going to do it, because that's very American. And he sort of lures me in and says, well, maybe there's another way. So it's interesting how those, perspectives, how we're raised and, they've been around a long time. These European countries, they kind of like the mystery.